All right,
That's
we are going to
generally
go ahead and rock and roll. So yeah, so today we are going to be talking about the Google Business Profile. We have Kevin Pauls here, who is the Director of Fulfillment here at Rotate Digital. And so we're just going to basically be sharing some information about what exactly is a Google Business Profile, the value that it has to offer to your business. Probably some of that information will be things that you already know, things that you're already doing and using. There might be some new information about that. But obviously the big topic are things we're going to be talking about of how to avoid your Google Business Profile being suspended. So we're going to get into it. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. Please type a 1 in the chat once you see it to make sure it works for you and to let me know that you see what I'm seeing. All right, Carlos sees it. I love it. It should be a blank screen, and I'll give you the Rotate Digital there. So let me go ahead and let me know if you see it. Type a 1 in the chat if you see it. And we'll go ahead and get rocking and rolling. Dimitri's really excited. All right, I'm going to assume that the 4 of you saw it, so everybody else saw it as well. If you have any issues, go ahead and throw it in there, and Nick, our big brother, will try to be able to help you out while we're going through this. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, so we are here to talk about the Google Business Profile. Some of the basic things of when I think about this profile is it is a great option for a business to dive into. One, it is free, and it is a platform for collecting leads. It also is hosted on the most used search engine, so it's a great place for your business to live. It is a representation of your business, and I'm speaking mostly to the reviews and the review rating that is very publicly displayed on the profile. It is also so in that way, it's also a trusted advisor to users. So it kind of operates in a similar way like Yelp and some of these other businesses. Obviously, this plays a huge role in how your business is presented to somebody who is doing a search. So it's also, in case you weren't aware of this, it's a way for Google to expand its reach, and it's also a way for Google to make money. That's intentionally through Google Ads, but it's also inadvertently through SEO and things like that. So there's some basics. Kevin, can you talk about a couple things that you need to get it set up, just in case there's somebody here who maybe doesn't have a Google Business Profile or is not very familiar with what that is?
Yeah. So regarding the basics of a Google Business Profile, some of the things that you need to set it up are, one, a business name, a phone number, and you want the phone number to not be used on another listing, first of all. So you need a business name, phone number, and you need an address to verify the listing. And then most importantly, a Google email. So because it's a Google product, everything runs off of their email system.
Right. Really quick on this. So you mentioned the phone number that's not used on a different listing. So we're talking about maybe there's some businesses that have multiple locations. So are you saying that they should have a different phone number for each location?
Yes. So I was just running into this actually with somebody else. He's got 3 listings set up. They all have different names. They all use the same phone number. They all have the same website, and they all have the same address. So they are old listings. You won't get away with that the same way now. But he wants things changed, right? And so we're getting into this discussion of, one, tracking, and also when you try and verify something, if your phone number and your address are the same as another listing, then Google's going to get confused, and there's going to be conflict, and it's not going to go well. So yeah, you want a separate phone number. Name, address, phone number is one of the most important things.
Yeah, and you reminded me as you were talking. You reminded me about what it took and how you could get a Google Business Profile verified a couple of years ago. How that has actually changed over the years. Before it was a Google My Business, which still kind of remains in our brains today. But you could get away with a lot in getting a Google My Business verified 4 or 5 years ago. Can you talk a little bit about what that market looked like then, Kevin, and then the difference that we see now?
Yeah, it was the Wild West. I mean, it still is in a sense. There's a lot less verification that happens when you're opening a listing now. And you'll notice the biggest difference actually between Apple Maps, their recent update, because they're now offering business listings. Mm-hmm. But between them and Google, the verification process that they require, you can't set up a service area business with Apple. You have to have an address. So Google just kind of, you can throw it out there and they'll let it go. You can publish a listing, have it live, and you don't have to have it verified. That was one of the biggest things. So you had businesses just riddling the maps with listings that were full of spammy keywords and whatnot. And so now, I mean, Google's really pushing this idea of providing the best search results for the user, the best user experience. So they're starting to crack down on that a lot more and make it more difficult.
Right. Yeah. I mean, a couple of years ago, you could use things like PO boxes. I'm pretty sure I got a business verified with a cardboard box at one point. It's not the same way now. It's a little bit more uptight. That's a perfect transition. I wanted you to talk a little bit about the difference for those who may not know of a service area business listing on Google Business or an actual address. Can you just talk about just the quick difference between that?
Yeah. So when Google's trying to provide the best user experience, they want to show addresses on businesses that are legitimate, that have a physical presence, a store you can walk into, a person at the counter you can go and say hi to, you can buy something from. And they've been testing this as well, where they'll call the business to make sure that it's legitimate, that it's there, it's present. So if you have a business with an address, it needs to be forward facing. There's got to be permanent signage, all that stuff. And that's really what we're going to get into later. But then a service area business has no forward facing address. There's no business signage on a building. People can't go and sit in the waiting room or go talk to a person physically at that location. And so service area businesses, what we would call SABs, they go to someone's place of residence, or they don't work in one place. They travel to go and service their clients, right?
Right. So for a service area business, like to bring it back down to our level, you would get it verified with your house, and basically your business would like blanket an entire metro area, or a whole like collection of local areas around you. Not necessarily I'm at this place, this address, this location. It's like, oh yeah, I cover this whole area, which is a true thing. It's just the way that you're presenting yourself, not only to the users but also to Google as well.
Yeah, I mean, one thing to keep in mind with that though is you can have an address listed and have a physical presence on the map, and you can also be a service area business. So it's not one or the other. Right. But as a service area business, without an address, you can't be client facing, public facing on the map.
Right. And this doesn't have so much to do with a suspension and what we're going to talk about later, but I just wanted you to share a couple of sentences really quick about the back end of a Google Business Profile. There's actually a website there that exists. Can you just share a couple quick lines about that, Kevin?
Yeah. For those of you who don't know, I should actually bring up an example, but I don't think we have one on here, do we? Google offers a website with a Google Business Profile. It's a single page, and basically it takes all of the data from your Google Business Profile and it puts it onto a landing page. And what you'll find is when you set it up, it'll have whatever the name that you add your Google Business Profile as, and then it'll be that name .business.site. And so Google's publishing these as a resource for people who have Google Business Profiles who may not have a website. And so you don't need to have a website built out in order to use the Google Business Profile.
Right. Cool. Thanks for sharing on that. All right, so that's basically the basics. We just wanted to touch base on what a Google Business Profile is and what it can help you with. And obviously, we're gonna get rocking and rolling into the problem right here. If you have any questions about basics of the Google Business Profile, please go ahead and put it into the chat. We're going to move on to the next section here. So obviously the problem that we're facing, Google Business your profile is a major source of traffic for any business. It is going to be, if you are a business that is dependent on organic search engine results, right? So that would be considered SEO. If you are dependent on direct or referral customers, that also has an impact. Your Google Business Profile plays a major role in this. Well, when somebody types in your brand let's just say St. Louis Moving Company. Let's just leave it. That's the name of the brand, St. Louis Moving Company. If that's your brand name, you're most likely, and hopefully your URL pulls up to the top of the page. Of course, there might be other links. There might be other ads there. There might be a Yelp link there, right? Who knows what's happening on that URL side. But on the right side, you should have your Google Business Profile that shows up. So that's actually a really valuable tool that people can see immediately at the top of their search, and it has everything they need. It has the reviews, the review rating. It has the website button. If they're on their mobile, it has the phone button as well. So for any business that is dependent on direct or organic search, and direct gets split into like people like who are returning customers or referrals, or people who have seen your trucks in the area, if you're a moving business owner, right? All those things would be considered under the direct search terms. So this is a really important thing for your business, even if you're not doing SEO. Yeah, so I've already talked about this. One of the big things that are going to come out of your Google Business Profile for any of our clients, they know like website visits and phone calls are basically the big kind of call to actions that come out of a Google Business Profile. When you do it on your desktop, the button that you see is going to be the website button, which is you can click over and start. If you're doing it on the phone, if you're searching on your phone, then it'll be a phone call button that you can press as well. So those are very valuable ways for people to get into touch with you and your business. And like we kind of call it on the inside, it's basically an on-ramp to your business. That's what this Google Business Profile is. So this can be a great thing for you guys until that moment happens and you get that love letter in the mail, in the email from Google saying, hey, just want to let you know your business is no longer existent. And here's the things that we need from you. Google, yeah. Kevin, why don't you go ahead and talk to us about why does Google do this to so many of us? And really quick, actually, let's take a moment. Anybody here who's listening, please type a 1 in the chat if you have ever experienced a suspension or a request for re-verification as well. Go ahead and type a 1 in the chat if you have ever experienced this, firsthand. And then Kevin, why don't you go ahead and talk?
Matt says, my page got taken down twice in a 3 to 4 month period. Asked why, and they won't tell me. Any thoughts?
Yeah. We're gonna come back. Let's get through the deck and then let's come back to questions at the end.
Well, yeah, I think this does get into it though, is
sure.
That silence you hear on the other end, Matt, of Google support. You're not the only one. And this question of why does Google do it? A lot of reasons. I like to imagine that Google is consistent in their marketing and their presentation, saying that they want to provide the best search experience, the best user experience for people searching. But I mean, what we all know with that is they've been taking down legitimate businesses that rely on this Google Business Profile. So why they don't respond? I don't know, because they don't have a good service and support system. Actually, on last week's webinar, Stefan was talking about the Bing support, because he was having one reinstated by Bing, or dealing with Bing support, and they were phenomenal. So why Google's is not the same way, we don't really know, but we try to understand it, but yeah, we just have no insight. So a couple of points that you brought up is Google's constantly crawling and sifting through businesses to try and guarantee the best result for every user every time, right? That speaks to the user experience as a whole, the end user experience. And because of Google's goals, this mission to provide the best user experience, I mean, that's why we're here. That's why rankings are, like you say, so highly sought after. And the SEO industry is so prevalent today. Why do they get suspended? A lot of reasons. I will bring up a few. Google's algorithms crawling, right? Constantly going through, and if your name doesn't match, if there's data that's inconsistent across the internet, it can get suspended. If it sees that someone has flagged your listing as harmful or inappropriate, then it will suspend it. There's tons of reasons that things get suspended. Are they all good reasons? No, definitely not.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, and and to flush out this idea, right? Google is trying to they're trying to provide the best service. So what that is they are constantly testing the businesses that are applicable to all these different terms, even if it's a direct term, but especially these organic terms. They're trying to figure out which businesses are the most legitimate. Well, that's a very, very big story that we're trying to comprehend, that Google tries to comprehend from a business, right? Because that's including website, that's including any content that is posted anywhere on the internet. It's including the Google business profile. Like there's so much that goes into this, and it's obviously not the way they're operating now is not perfect, right? And there's no way for us to reach in there and fix it. It's just we can just learn where they're at right now and try to do the best to be proactive and then be the quickest in a reactive way. So we're going to get a little bit more into some of these whys. Yeah, so I mean, they can happen at any time, right? That sometimes up till recently, the reason was not being given for the suspension, right? So, for example, right, like Matt said, I asked why and they won't tell me. That's a lot of people. A lot of people don't know why their listings have been taken down. Recently, they have started to give a hint or like a slight breeze of a direction, but it's not exactly helpful. It's not like they're saying, oh, it's in this spot that we found this, and this is what made us seem it made everything seem suspicious, and this is why we took down your Google business profile. It's definitely not that. So they're definitely not as helpful as they could be. One of the things that they're always going to point to is that whatever it is, it was in violation of their terms of service. For the most part, that's usually what that's usually the kind of the curtain that they hide behind, right?
I'm gonna jump in. What seems to be the most common phrase, specifically the most common phrase used, is your listing has been suspended because it was flagged for suspicious activity, and that's just the blanket statement.
Yikes. Yeah. So really quick, there are terms of service that Google has posted. They are right here, but you can also just type it in yourself and find them. So these are the things that you would want to hold your business to and say, hey, am I doing these things right? So you can go ahead and take a look at that. Again, that can be found very easily in your own Google business profile, but also in a normal Google search as well. So yeah, so getting more into this, and I think we have Matt had a question about flagging a listing, and we're actually going to be talking about that right now, Kevin. So why don't you go ahead and talk to us about what does suggesting an edit look like, and what is it, and how does it help or hurt?
Yeah, I saw your question there, Matt. You can see on the graphic, there's a spot below the phone number that says suggest an edit, and then beside it has own this business. Anybody can suggest an edit. You don't even have to have a Google account. So at least I don't believe so. I haven't tried it without a Google account. But what this means is it's just like the Wild West out there. Anybody can go and they can suggest an edit to your business. And depending on their level as a Google guide or as a product expert, Google establishes certain levels of trust with individuals. And so the edit that they request or that they suggest may be published without your approval. Google does make changes automatically. And so to answer your question, Matt, how do you flag one? You go to that suggest and edit, and then there's a couple options you can choose from. And anybody can flag your listing. Anybody can suggest edits on your listing. And this is actually a big problem that Google doesn't have a really good method of solving yet. So it seems.
Yeah. And Matt, what's stopping the competition from doing that all the time? John, I'm flagging everything. Absolutely.
If your listing goes down, you guys give John a call.
That's right. It is pretty nuts, right? It's crazy to think about a platform as massive as Google, and it's this simple, and it's this really kind of volatile. But this also doesn't make me empathize but it does share some clarity on probably the amount of crap that Google has to sift through, because we all know what's about to happen right after this webinar. Right? Everybody's going to go suggest an edit. That's going to be a bunch of tickets into somewhere, some kind of support system for Google, and they're going to have to sift through and decide what's valuable. And like Kevin said, if the person suggesting an edit is a higher level expert or a trusted guide on Google, then obviously there's a little bit more value, a little bit more trust put into that. But yeah, that is something that starts to create maybe not red flags, but maybe like yellow flags, and maybe just indicators, which might make Google take a second look. And in our experience, Google's second look is almost worse than the first. It's really not good. And I think we have an example here coming up soon, so we're going to talk about it. Yeah, this is basically kind of repeated, constantly crawling, recrawling. And again, they're trying to reinforce that purpose of they're trying to provide the best experience for the user. The way that they do that is making sure that the businesses that are presented on those searches are the most relevant, legitimate businesses for that user. And one of those things, I think Travis talked about it in a previous webinar, is that even in your local area, if you start doing the multiple search over and over again, they're going to start rotating those businesses, because Google realizes that you haven't chosen the businesses that were showing up first, and they're rotating it. And I just say that just to let you know also that they're really, really like hell bent on making sure that you continue to use their platform to the very end. Yeah, and also, one thing to keep in mind, this is a Google business profile. This is basically like their little child that you are operating on. So they're going to take it very seriously. The information and the data that's put on into this profile, they're going to take it very seriously. So this is something that needs to be, as we approach the Google business profile, we treat it very delicately. We show a lot of love to our clients' Google business profiles. We try not to do any sudden movements of any kind, because we don't want to make Google come watching. So this is an example of due diligence. Why don't you go ahead and break this down for us?
Yeah, just to speak to the crawling just a little bit before we get into due diligence. So when you get flagged, when somebody suggests an edit, or if there's a re-verification triggered on your GBP, the algorithm will crawl it. And one of the things that they do is they compare other entities on the internet to yours. And I mean, this is more of a recent update, recent discovery, but if you get a listing suspended and you're trying to get it re-verified, Google is asking for your Better Business Bureau URL in that process now. So this was just published. I just found this out yesterday. So they're giving weight to different directories and different listings. So it's not just your GBP. So it includes your website. It includes all the directories and citations. It includes any digital entity, any asset you have online that presents your brand. So they must be consistent. And so now we get into this not so due diligence slide, where when you get a re-verification, or you're trying to get your business verified, or it gets suspended and you're trying to get it out of suspensions, then like Google will go crawl it. You submit your re-verification, they go and crawl your listing again. And one of the things that they look at is the images. And so Google's algorithm can pull data from images. If you guys didn't know that, well, here's your update. If you put an image in there, Google will pull labels from it. They'll pull data. They'll pull like what kind of animals are in it. They'll pull objects. Like they can read the image. So the algorithm is going through and crawling the images on the profiles. Now, this, do you want to explain this case, Travis, or do you want me to get into more details on this?
I'll open it up and then you can flesh it out. Okay. So
yeah,
this is a business. I don't know if you can tell by the picture, but this is actually a warehouse, and this is a long time moving business. They've been in business since 2000, I believe, 13. And they've been at this address for a little bit now. They've had this is actually a warehouse that stands here. They've been here for a year already, and they are operating their business out of this. According to Google, this is what their business looks like right now. Basically, what the story that this is your business could be set up in the right way, and everything could be lining up perfectly. But one of the steps that gets taken in the crawling process is looking at the street view. And I'll let Kevin talk about that a little bit more. But basically, this picture shows us what the street view is of this address, which is where their warehouse is actually at. The problem is, and I don't know, can we zoom? No, I don't think we can zoom. Down here at the very bottom, you can see this image was captured June of 2015. So it is, to say the least, out of date, which it goes to show we're not working with the best when it comes to the legitimacy of our businesses. And Kevin, go ahead.
Yeah. So when you submit that reinstatement request with Google, one of the things, if it does go to a manual review, so the algorithm will go through and cycle. It'll go in and look at this data. And when it pulls up that, if you put in an address, and the algorithm goes and checks this, and this is what it will see. So automatically, it's going to go, yeah, this business doesn't exist here, and it's just as simple as that. There's no, and then the follow-up response with the email is silence. So you request a reinstatement. The algorithm does its crawl, and then you get nothing. And then you're waiting and waiting and waiting, and then you submit it again, and then it goes into a manual review process. And then whoever manually reviews it goes and they look at this, and they go, yeah, there's no business here. There's nothing here that says you exist. I've had cases where where Google pinned the address wrong. So you have an address and it's on like the other side of a building. So the front door has branding, everything is there, all the signage. Mm-hmm. But because Google's cameras didn't go around the building to see that, it was stuck on the one side, and there was nothing on that side. It was just a blank. There was no numbers. There wasn't anything. And so what we had to do is, I was dealing with the product experts, and we had the client go and take photos of the front of their business, and then I went on a map and I drew like where this is, and then submitted it all to the product experts. And then so it got manually reviewed by the support team at Google, and then they instated it. But it took a lot, and it took a lot of physically going and checking in the maps to see what the issues were. And then it took the client going and taking all the photos of the business, and then doing a video walk around of the building to show where the image that Google has, where it is in relation to where his front door of his business is. So, yeah.
So just keep in mind, the only due diligence that's happening is going to be happening on your side. You're going to have to do the legwork when it comes to your Google Business Profile being suspended, because they're doing the bare minimum, right? Just like we see here, they're like, oh, this has no warehouse, so you're obviously not here. No, that's a picture 8 years ago now. So it's outdated information. It's a lack of effort and lack of time and attention, and we have to make up for it, unfortunately. So is the suspension really that bad? Yes, the answer is yes. It's really that bad. So I'm actually going to skip this because I think the second slide kind of repeats it. But basically, it is really that bad. Any local searches, any direct searches, like we talked about, your Google Business Profile is mostly showing up at the top of any direct search, any local organic search. If your business is one that is visible online in organic searches, then it is very, very valuable. But even if not, if you're not doing SEO, if your business is not visible on organic terms, direct searches, referrals, returning customers, they will use the Google Business Profile a lot. So it is still valuable for you, even if you're not investing into SEO, not worried about SEO, not worried about Google as a source of traffic. I promise you, it still plays a major role in your business. And is it really that bad? Yes. On the local side of things, go ahead and why don't you kind of talk about what we're looking at? For those who don't know what these maps look like, Kevin, can you go and really quickly explain what this map is and the difference between the two?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think everybody can see the difference between the two pretty clearly. If any of you are familiar with Sesame Street, if you have young kids, one of these ones is not like the other ones. And so the one with the green on it, that's a business that's thriving. They're ranking really well. They're growing. I don't remember what the radius is on that one. What was it? 8 miles or something like that on that?
This one's actually a 4 mile radius.
That one's a 4 mile. Okay. But yeah, all of a sudden their Google Business listing got suspended, and then overnight, I mean, that's what it looks like. The next scan, whenever that next scan happened, they didn't show up at all. Just gone off the maps. You will
Right.
not find them.
So they are removed from the map pack. Their Google Business Profile isn't even populated on the right if you're doing a direct search. And it has become impossible for you to be found on a Google search while your Google Business Profile is suspended. So we have an example scenario here, I believe. Yeah, hypothetical. So this is a business. This is what Kevin was referring to as an 8 mile radius. So this is a St. Louis moving company that is dominating on an 8 mile radius. So stick with me on this story. So these are the money key terms. So let's say this is St. Louis Movers or Moving Company St. Louis. And their brand stretches 8 miles, and I would guess by this map, even further across in all directions. So we're talking about a lot of surface area that this business covers, and they are showing up in the map pack. They are showing up at the top of Google searches for pretty much everybody in the St. Louis area, in the greater St. Louis area. So at this point, for this business, Google plays a major role in the stability and the growth of their business, right? You can put a number to it, but we're talking about somewhere between $50,000 to $80,000 of Google revenue monthly probably coming in for this business. If this business profile gets suspended, all of that disappears. That 50K is gone, and it doesn't come back until you get that business profile reinstated. So that's to illustrate kind of the really like the tragedy of what a Google Business Profile can be for your business. And that's just on a ranking SEO side of things. That's not even pulling in direct searches, referral searches, because it plays a role in that as well. So yes, it is a very bad thing. So with the suspended GBP, like we've already talked about, you're going to get pulled out of pretty much some of the most valuable places for Google search. The only way that people would be able to find your business on a Google search would be searching in the SERP section, which would be like where all the other URLs are at. So if I did a search like movers near me, and I have to go past the Google ads, go past the map pack, and then go to look at all the URLs, what we call the SERP section. And your business is competing with Yelp URLs, Facebook, other URLs, hire a helper, all kinds of there. And so it's like looking through a haystack, really. That's what your business is dependent on. And then it's also dependent on, pay per click, pay per call. So it's not the ideal situation, obviously. Why don't you, Kevin, go and talk about this? This is going to be talking about the recent updates and kind of the uptick in suspensions that we've been seeing. You've kind of addressed this a little bit, but go ahead and dive into it.
Yeah, there's been a number. I mean, over the last year, 2022, there was 10 major algorithm updates in 2022. The previous 2 years combined made up 13 updates, major updates. So 2022 was a very big year for updates with Google. And there was a product reviews update in February, and then the March core update, I don't believe is completed yet, but I could be wrong. It might have just been completed. So Google is always updating. They're always changing, tweaking. And the last one in March doesn't seem to have affected the local business so much, but product reviews has had a significant impact. And then previously to that, there's been tons of impact on local businesses. There was a period of time there where, as Google's testing things, all these spammy names started popping up in the listings, in the rankings. So something that, like, business listings that were just riddled with keywords, and they didn't make any sense. They weren't legitimate businesses. Like, they were thrown up there, or somebody was trying to optimize them and wasn't going about it right. And there was a number of them that I actually was flagging, and at the time, because an algorithm update was rolling out, Google wasn't even touching them. They weren't even taking them down. And so I find it really curious. They disappeared when that algorithm update completed. So my suspicion is dealing with these updates. The things that you see when you're in an update is Google shuffling things, seeing what's working, pulling things to the top, and I mean, I always kind of look at it this way: as Google's testing and trying to see things, the stuff that they're trying to remove, they need to allow it to benefit first, so that it can get shown, so that it can just show up. And it's kind of they're filtering. How do you find it? How do you figure that stuff out? So you can see things pop up, and then all of a sudden they just disappear, and that's Google just testing.
Yeah. You need to shed a little bit of light. You need to expose it a little bit.
Yeah. So a lot of these businesses just got suspended, and many of them, they can't get their accounts back. The entire account was banned. So whether they were running multiple business listings or managing different businesses, Google doesn't just suspend the listing; they will also suspend accounts. And when you submit a reinstatement request, it doesn't always get looked at right away. So you reinstate it, the algorithm will run a cycle. And then you might get an email, but a lot of the reinstatements happen manually. And there's times where Google doesn't even look at the reinstatement requests for a few weeks, right? We saw that there was one point they weren't touching them. They weren't even looking at them for 3 weeks. So you would send a reinstatement request, and Google sends you that little email that says, hey, you should receive your postcard within 5 business days. And then it's just crickets. There's nothing. And we've watched this go on for months.
Yeah, that one, I remember that. That one was perfect timing. It was right at that December update. And it was just wonderful. Many of our clients had a really great December because of that. So.
Yeah, I mean, another kind of interesting story, an interesting point. Kind of touching back on the due diligence thing, I was talking with one of the product experts last week. He's going through a re-verification, so a video verification, where Google has you record a video of your business. This is the third attempt at verifying this business. But he doesn't know what the videos look like that are getting sent to Google. So in terms of due diligence, it's not like you can send this video into a product expert, they submit it, and then Google reviews it and says, yeah, it came from a product expert, we're good to go. They will look at the video. They'll probably do it manually with whoever owns the listing, and that gets submitted. You'll jump on the phone with a Google representative. They go through, they do it, and they don't tell you, yeah, it looks good on the phone. They just do it, they submit it, and then you don't hear anything else again. Because the information you provided was not what they were looking for, but they didn't communicate that. Right. So in terms of getting your listing back live and doing due diligence, Google is not helpful in that, which is why it's really, really important to get this stuff right at the very beginning.
Yeah, this is not an immediate response. This is not a live chat that you're working with. This is, you do one thing and there's a delay. There's a delayed response. And then you do the next thing and there's a delayed response. And really quickly, and we've seen this on multiple occasions, Kev, is, days turn into weeks, which turn into months. And there are businesses that have had business profiles suspended for 3 to 6 months. We've seen it firsthand, and it's awful. It's awful for that business. It's decapitizing, really, really bad. So, how can we help? So this is going to be kind of what we are focused on as Rotate Digital, on how we can help our clients approach this problem, because this is a real thing. And like we've talked about, this isn't something that we have a light switch. This is something that we can take some steps proactively. And then we have one big quick step that we want to be able to take reactively. And so there's basically 4 things that Google is asking for in the case of a reinstatement. Can you go ahead and talk about that, Kev?
Yeah. So this is the goal. When you provide this information, it expedites the process with reinstatements, and I should say most of the time. So your utility bill has your business name. This is what Google's looking for, right? And they've said this in their guidelines. This is open. You can go find this in their documentation. the requirements is utility bill. So that it has your business name, the address that your business is registered at, and the phone number. That should align with your Google Business Profile. And I will say this, the consistency is extremely important. So just having your utility bill and sending that in, if that doesn't match your Google Business Profile, you won't get your listing reinstated. We lost Travis, but
I'm here.
Can you hear us still? Okay, you're still in chat. So keep that in mind. Just because you provide this documentation does not mean your listing will get reinstated. So it has to be consistent. So utility bill, the copy of the business license. The utility bill is the number one thing. That's what Google wants. Secondary would be business license, knowing that your business is a registered business and it has the name, address, phone number. And those, again, are consistent with what's on your Google Business Profile, right? Photos.
I'm going to stop you there because I know that's going to be a pain point for a lot of business owners. Maybe not these ones, but for a lot of business owners, their business license probably does not match the address that they're actually positioned, their listing is actually positioned at, because maybe they started their business a long time ago. They started it at their house and it's been tied to their residential address, or even tied to a previous residential address, or tied to a previous business address, right? So this is something it's also really important, but it's also something that probably a lot of our businesses and a lot of just businesses out there, they probably don't have this consistently lined up with, for example, the utility bill.
Yeah, and this is the kind of stuff that actually Apple Maps makes you submit before you get the listing, whereas Google makes you submit it to get your listing back once they suspend it. So they kind of hook you into this free asset that is a moneymaker. And then when you lose it, they're like, yeah, but now you have to prove yourself. So photos of the outside of the building, this is really important. We touched on this before. When Google goes and they look at your business on the Street View, they also look at the other photos in the listing. And if you have like your cover photo, for example, or all the signage on the outside, if you're posting photos on your listing of your business, of the front client facing, the public facing parts of it, permanent signage, and you can post videos. You even just take your phone and do a video and walk into your office, walk into the open space for customers to come in. And then take photos of the inside of your business, outside of your business, like just all of it, and then put that on your Google Business Profile. That makes a huge difference. So not only does it solidify your branding on the listing, but then when Google also goes and looks at it, they recognize, yeah, this is a legitimate business, and it may counter that lack of Street View photo. So there's that, and then photo of the existing Street View of the business address. So we already talked about that. That needs to be updated, and you can submit that update. You can take a photo and you can upload it, and you can recommend that photo be changed on the Street View. So that is an option.
Yeah.
This is something that.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I was going to say, this is something that we collect from our clients. This is so that we can help expedite the reinstatement process.
And this is so for those of our clients that are here, but this is something that we're trying to transition towards also, because these are a couple things that we can have ready to go in a zip file for the moment that happens, and we'll know because we manage your Google Business Profile, and because you get that lovely email, and that way we have that zip file ready to go, and the reinstatement process starts already, and it's in the format that Google wants, so it's possibly not waiting in a queue of a bunch of random information. It looks the way that Google wants. So there's a possibility that also it gets taken care of quicker because it's already in the zip file format, which not everybody is submitting their information or evidence in a zip file format, right? So this is something that we're trying to work on with all of our clients, because we do think that this is the best and quickest way to get a business profile reinstated. Matt has a great question about what if you don't have a physical location. I think we can address it now. What does reinstatement look like for a service area business?
It basically looks the same. You still have a copy of your business registry, and they're less strict on service area businesses. So I've run into where a business cannot get reinstated, and Google obviously doesn't say anything. They don't say, well, it's because you don't have a physical location, but your address is showing on your listing. And So all they needed to do was take the address off the listing. But they didn't know that. Google never said anything. And they had just registered their business at their home. It was their residential address. And I mean, customers can come and visit that place. It's where they operate their business. They didn't have any branding, any signage set up. If you say that customers can come there and you have all the permanent signage set up, then that's hard to argue. So then if you have a utility bill or a copy of the business license, then it really solidifies that. If you don't have a physical location, then do a service area business and don't run a physical address showing on your listing. Otherwise, somebody could flag it and you can get suspended from that.
Right. And that's going into the topic of, which is not part of this slide deck, but it's actually also just kind of taking a look at your Google business profile and kind of just establishing, is my business profile at risk or is it kind of in the clear? Now, in the clear, like we know, like we talked about, in the clear actually isn't clear, but it's basically your best bet and it's your best attempt, right? There's still a possibility that Google comes knocking and screws your business, to say it frankly, but it's your best foot forward, right?
I see that other question on there from, I think it's from Dimitri. How can I update my outside picture on Google? Well, sometimes you can't. You can set your cover photo and Google will pick a different one. And there's actually just a recent study published on this specific topic. So it's kind of fitting. People were trying to change their cover photos, and so they would change it with all kinds of different things. And Google kept publishing different photos. They would just default to the Street View photo, which it was like that 2015 one. It didn't exist. And so for whatever reason, that was the default. And that's where Google was going back to. So one thing you can do with your cover photo, I'll give you an outline here in terms of what your cover photo should look like and the dimensions of it, so that it's the most optimized for your listing. And with doing this, Google should leave it alone, and it helps present your business better. So it should look good in both landscape and square. So if you don't know what landscape is, that's like the 16:9. That's the long triangle, and a square photo. So on Google Business Posts or on the mobile, you'll have the background photo square, and then on the Maps listing, it'll also show a square. And then pick an image that has most of the image in the top half and not the bottom half. That's really important because Google will crop it, they'll cut it. So you want all your important information in the top half of the photo. So, and usually in the middle. It should not be a close-up, and it should not have lots of background detail. Or sorry, it should be a close-up and not have background detail. So what this does is it really isolates what is in the photo. So if you have lots of things going on, Google will be pulling those labels and they'll be attaching them to that photo when they examine it. So if it's a very simple photo with like a defined image in it, that's where you want to cut that and only show that close up. So it's just really simple and clear cut for Google. And then an image of the exterior of your business is preferable. So those of you who have physical locations, use an image of the outside of your business. If you don't have a physical location, something like a truck. If you have a branded truck, something like that. And then use the dimensions. This is really important. So write this down.
Yeah, I'm writing everything down for you guys.
So the dimensions of your cover photo, the most optimized dimensions are 1332 pixels by 750 pixels. Okay.
Yikes.
And then if you do utilize the website, the integrated website in the Google Business Profile, use that photo as the banner. That's the other tidbit. And what that does is it helps you optimize for the knowledge panel in Google.
Good point. Cool. I put everything there for you guys, so you can pull that out, save it for yourself. Thanks, Kevin, for sharing that. That's awesome. All right. Yeah, so that's what we can do, and this is the fun part. These are some of the things that you can be doing. So these are kind of the first 3 questions that you want to ask yourself. Basically, you want to just accept and be aware of what your Google Business Profile is, the benefits of having it, and the risks that you're playing with when you're operating on Google's terms, right? And this is something that we say a lot here at Rotate Digital is a lot of times at the end of the day, it is in Google's hands, and we do the best we can based on the history and the experience we have. But we pretty much have T-shirts. Google sucks. So, number 2, make sure your business is complying with the terms of service. And then number 3 is building a business that is, legitimate, is visibly legitimate in Google's eyes, based on the things that we've talked about, right? Consistent names, consistent business name, consistent address, phone numbers, the photos, all those things that we've talked about. Those kind of create that story, not only for the users, which tell a great story to the users, but they do tell the story to Google as well while they're crawling through businesses trying to provide that best experience for those users. So, and then here's a couple more things that you guys can be doing on your own. Before we get into this, Kev, because we're about to give them like a bunch of things. Hey, here's a bunch of things you can do in your Google Business Profile. I would like to just highlight some things that they should not be doing on their Google Business Profile all the time. I feel like that's an important topic.
I have so many examples that are coming to mind that I probably shouldn't share.
So yeah, let's just give them some experience and
yeah,
go ahead.
Last year, Google. You might have to stop me because I like to get into the weeds sometimes. But last year, Google published. They published a bunch of stuff, but with the core updates, they are analyzing images a lot more, and they're pulling that data out. So the images that you put on your listing, they do get looked at, and they get rated, and they get labeled. And so what you include in your images, if you're a moving company, make them about moving.
Oh, I know who you're referring to.
Don't use your Google Business Profile as a personal profile. Separate them.
Well said. Right. So accept that your Google Business Profile, it is not your Facebook. It is not a place for you as a business owner to say, hey, I'm so happy as a business owner, even though it's relevant because you are the owner of the business. That is not a place for you to share your feelings or an update on your life. That is not what this is. This is a professional listing of your business. It's a representative of everything that you've built. You need to treat it professionally. So photos of you, and I'm just going to hypothetically give you an example. Photos of you sitting on a beach saying, hey, hope your day's going great. Love my job. Love my life. That is not something that belongs on your Google Business Profile under the post section, under the photos section. That kind of stuff, that kind of content does not belong. But what are some big no-nos, Kevin? Give us some big no-nos, some of the basics, like things you should not be messing with on a like quick back-to-back basis. We should not be changing, the address, every 2 weeks, right?
Yeah. Don't change anything in a time span of less than 24 hours, like back-to-back. I've tried to get actual times from Google, and they won't say anything. There's no specific time frame that they give. But when you do frequent changes, you will trigger a re-verification. So you will get recrawled and possibly suspended because you've made too many changes. Too many changes in too short a time frame. So that's one. Don't just make a bunch of changes and then go make more changes and make more changes.
And yeah,
if Kevin, you're going to make changes, make them all at once.
Can you break down? Yeah, can you break down? Are you talking about are you talking about adding photos or what kind of changes? Can you break it down a little bit more clear?
Yeah, business informational changes. So whether you're doing the attributes on it, your description, your business name, phone number, the address, the services, the there was another point I was going to make. I don't remember what it was. There's a few there's a few items on there that will trigger a re-verification. So things like your name, your phone number, your address, your website, that has also been triggering re-verifications. So when you go and you change that field to go from HTTP to HTTPS, it's been triggering re-verifications. So if you don't have this information accessible, the re-verification information, then you might get a re-verification notice sent to you, and you might not be able to re-verify it because you either get the code. So this is something that happens if there is information that is not correct in your listing, and you've just changed your website address or your phone number or one of the other pieces of information. Google sends you a re-verification postcard. You put that postcard code in, and your listing automatically disappears and gets suspended. And you're like, what just happened? I just changed my website. It's the same website. I changed it from HTTP to HTTPS. And then you get an email that says your listing was suspended due to suspicious activity.
Mm-hmm.
So it's so ambiguous. And they won't tell you that, hey, your name didn't match the other information on your website or in the schema markup on the location page of your website or anything like that, right? So be just very cautious in the information changing.
Mm-hmm. And remember, all that, the reason why they trigger those re-verifications, all that is supporting their mission, right? Because if you're constantly changing like vital information about your business, you're changing the story of what your business is, which is going to change the way your business is appearing, is presenting to the user, to Google. So if you're changing that information all the time, right? Like, so technically, like if that wasn't a real thing, you could change your address every couple of weeks to make your business locally relevant for a bunch of different areas around, a metro area, right? So that's the thing that Google's trying to cut out, trim off, is, again, it's all coming back to that same kind of central goal of trying to make Google the best platform.
So I mean, one of the other things is categories. Constantly changing categories will trigger a re-verification. Changing your primary category. Some businesses, which are seasonal, can do that. They can change their primary category based on season. But for the most part, don't touch it. Don't touch the GBP.
Don't touch it. We've got a t-shirt for that too. So really quick, can you go ahead and go into some of the things that you can do, that these guys can go into their Google business profile and go ahead and basically practices that they should be engaging in?
Yeah. You can do posts, Google business posts. I would recommend like once a week. I've had questions of, can you do too many? Think about it like this. If those posts are showing up in Google search, right? So they do show up. So it is an opportunity to show your brand. And like Travis, you said, to tell your story. So think about it like that. If you can tell your story with it, then it's a good tool. And so use it. So posts, you can add videos. There was a question, actually, I was going to address this, about moving. When you plan on moving, one thing that I would do if you're planning on moving your location, if you already have secured a location, then post about it. Like, hey, we're moving. A post like that, or add it as an event on your Google business profile. As there's a date, right? This is our move date. Make notice about it.
Right.
And then post photos, post videos.
And we'll come back to that question again, because there's some more that we want to come back to at the end. Okay.
So add signage. As much branding as you can present as possible, do that. In terms of your listing optimization, have your logo, have your branding solidified. That's a huge one. And then the information consistent across the internet. That's so important.
Right. Cool. Yep. Really good stuff. Yep. So all these things are things that you can be engaging in. Google 360 is a great tool that now you can use and that's all. It's all just telling the story that your business is legitimately placed at this address. We're here, we're working, we're open to customers. don't suspend us. We're here. It's real. And that's pretty much it. Look at that. So we got some good information. We got some things for you guys to do. We're going to go ahead and jump into the questions really quick. And let's go ahead and go through here. Nick, go ahead and put them all to the side for us. So we're going to go ahead and read them out. So I'm going to go down the list. We might skip through a few because we did answer a couple. From Dimitri, what photos do best on the Google Business Profile? Go ahead.
Yeah, photos that, one, are well branded and represent the services that you offer. That's what does the best.
And in the locations that you serve.
Yes. Yeah, if there's a common building in the background, go take a picture with your truck in front of that building.
Yeah, like the monuments in your area, places that are well known. Yes. Yeah, those kinds of things are great with your truck right in front of it, blocking everything. It's perfect. From John, how do I get Google to take down all my competitors' pages? We already talked about that. Suggesting an edit. That is an option if you want to engage in it. Have we engaged in it? Just a couple times. From Matt, my page got taken down twice in a 3 to 4 month period. I asked why and they won't tell me. We did talk about this.
Yeah.
I hope that he got Matt. I have some answers on this. How do you flag a listing? What's stopping the competition from doing that all the time? We talked about that as well.
Nothing is stopping that.
Yeah, nothing is stopping. What if you don't have a physical location? We did talk about that. Would it be better to be listed as a service area business than a location, on the sense that it would be less likely to get taken down? So basically his question is a service area business more safe?
No, I would say no. You still need to represent yourself and be consistent across the internet. So if somebody suggests an edit, then Google will look at it, they'll crawl it, and you could be just as likely to get it taken down as a service area business. The caveat with that is, or like, I guess the upside of the service area business is it's easier to get it reinstated as a service area business.
Yeah. If
you don't have the documentation, it's easier to get reinstated. If you do have all the documentation and it all lines up, the restatements can happen very, very quickly.
Yeah, we've even seen scenarios where businesses were set up with a real location, and we actually flipped the business to a service area business to get it re-verified.
Mm-hmm.
So, from Nick, you may have already mentioned this, but what steps do I need to take to change my phone number on my GBP profile? Is it risky to change it?
It will trigger a verification, most likely. So if you have physical presence or a physical location, then make sure that all your signage and everything is updated. So if you change your phone number and none of your signage has the new phone number, then when that algorithm goes and crawls and pulls that data from those images, it's going to read that old phone number.
Right. So Kevin is referring to signage. He's referring to photos with the signage that are on your Google Business Profile. So also making sure that those are taken and uploaded onto the Google Business Profile beforehand, before you do the phone number change.
Yeah, and I've also seen where Google's made changes automatically based on directories and citations. Mm-hmm. So if you have directories and citations that have a different phone number and they're published, now most of the aggregators will cover that when you make the change or you request a change, but there's some that they don't touch. And we've run into that where the aggregator didn't touch a specific directory, and it was changed. The phone number was changed everywhere except that one. And Google picked that up, and they automatically swapped the phone number on the business listing, and that business stopped getting phone calls.
Right. Great. Thanks for that, Kev. Yeah. So what should you do if you plan on moving your location to a new one? We did talk about this a little bit. I wanted to come back to it. I think a good practice would be to have these things, these 4 things that you need ready to go in a zip file. So that's your utility bill. So making sure the location that you're moving into, these are the options. You're going to have these options to available to you, right? Having the utility bill with the brand name attached to it, right? With the business name attached to it. Having your business license changed, right? It's usually not a long process, though it can be kind of annoying. But getting your business license changed to the new location, right? Having all that information, getting those photos taken, getting an updated photo for the street view, having all those things kind of, ready in the holster, so that when you do move to a new location, and if they require a bunch of information from you, you already have it ready to go. You're not like scrambling to try to find everything when you've already moved your Google Business Profile. Because ideally, you want a seamless transition from your previous location where you're currently collecting calls, leads are coming in through your Google Business Profile. You make the move. Even if there's a re-verification, it's done within 24, 72, maybe a week at the most, because you've already given them everything they need and it transitions over really fast. What you don't want is to make that move and then all of a sudden you have to start scrambling for a business license. And while you're not having any business, you have to go to like a city hall or something like that to try to make sure all these things are taken care of. It's like the last thing that you want to do. So getting these things taken care of beforehand, before you make that move on the location on the Google Business Profile. From Matt, I had a company reach out to me saying they were with Google. Oh, great question. I love this. I had a company reach out to me saying they were with Google. This was unrelated to the call. They said that they can maintain your GMB and make sure it doesn't get taken down and update it whenever it needs to, so that it complies with their terms. Have you heard of this?
Yeah, it's called a scam.
I was really excited. I was really excited for how you were going to phrase it.
And there's companies out there that do that. Hey, we're from Google. I'm going to charge you $100 and I'll take care of your listing for you. I hear it all the time, and Google does not call you like that. That's not how it works. If you've dealt with their support at all, then, that's how it works. So
you would know that they're not giving you a phone call.
No.
Maybe what might be confused is maybe what we might be talking about, what we might be getting into is maybe they're not necessarily with Google. I don't know if that's what Matt's question was. Maybe they're not with Google, but maybe it's, for example, it's like a platinum level expert or something like that offers a service like maintaining and re-verification. Can you just talk a little bit, share a couple sentences on what that looks like, Kevin?
On product level expert or product experts?
Yeah.
Yeah, so basically product experts have certain privileges, and they have more access to information and people than the general public does.
Okay.
So they might provide a service where they can get your listing reinstated quicker, and provide more secure services.
Yeah.
So that doesn't get suspended. That's kind of what you're talking about.
Yeah, and actually Matt kind of cleared it up. I think that's what he was more talking about. So he's talking more about somebody who's affiliated, somebody who is a platinum level expert or something like that. From what we've seen and what we've experienced, the re-verification process is the same crap for everybody.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I will say they can expedite things and send it to people, but that does not mean it's going to get re-verified or reinstated quicker. It doesn't guarantee it, I should say. Most times it can be, but it doesn't guarantee it.
Yep. All right. Thank you for that. From Dimitri, does Google read geotag on my pictures?
So when you take a photo, you used to be able to upload it through the app, and now you have to update it through the dashboard. So there's tons of speculation on whether this is a worthwhile thing. The metadata gets stripped when you upload it on Google. So is it reading it while it's stripping it? I don't know. But once it's on there, it's stripped. And Google's moving more to image rendering optimization and reading labels, pulling data from the picture itself than they are from the metadata. So does it provide some benefit in some cases? Yeah, sure. I don't see why it would hurt. Is it the thing that's going to move the needle for you? No.
Mm-hmm. Good point. From Matt, what's the quickest time frame you've seen a business get reinstated? And I think that this could be broken down into a lot of different scenarios, but I know for myself, we've seen, literally it's been minutes. You just submit the re-verification and it happens like that. As far as legitimate issues and legitimate conflicts that are let's just say more justified, then you can speak a little bit about that. I've had my own experiences.
Yeah, and if it's something, it just varies. It always depends on the situation, and it's never. This is why it's so important for you guys to do due diligence with your own listings, because Google's not doing it for you, like we already said. So yeah, it's been as soon as like almost instantaneously from hitting that submit, it gets crawled, verified, boom, your listing's live. And then we've also had months of issues.
Yeah. So yeah, it is very dependent on the cause of the suspension and everything as well. So yeah. All right. Well, that pretty much wraps it up. Thank you so much, Kevin, for your time and for your wisdom regarding this topic. Guys, thank you so much for participating. Nick, not sure really what else we want to mention or talk about in here, but it was an absolute pleasure to talk about this. I think it's a very important topic. A lot of things that you guys hold in your hands as business owners that you guys can make sure that these things are taken care of, which is really exciting, and it is a very important thing. So want to thank everybody for their time, for joining us, and stay tuned for the next announcement of the next webinar.